All right, y'all. This is a long time overdue. However, we're on divine timing. So, what we're going to be talking about today, first of all, my name is Mila.
My name is
And
oh
go ahead.
my name is Santiago.
I gave him the full name, Santiago. Okay, anyways. Well, my full name is Jamila. But you can call me Mila or Jam. Do you have a nickname you go by, babe?
My name is Santiago, but you can call me Tio.
Yes, so recording this video a little bit on two parts. So one, just to give y'all a perspective, we have been in a relationship for 13 months. And yeah, this is my longest relationship that I've ever been in. The healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And today we're going to do kind of like a two-parter. So one of the videos that we're going to record is going to be kind of diving into more so human design, and then another video we're going to talk about like our relationship and how we've grown. But yeah, just kind of give you guys a little bit of background. We both have businesses. We met through our businesses technically. I
Mm-hmm.
was actually vending at a Central Arts Market in downtown Phoenix at their Saturday night market, and Teal was there. A lady, after speaking with me for like 30 minutes, she walked away and came back and brought Teal and was like, "You guys should talk." And so we talked, and from there is history.
Yeah, that's about how it went.
Quite literally, so fast forward, we're here. We'll tell the full story another day. However, the first thing that I want to just dive into for this video is going to be all about human design.
You
Now, if you don't know what human design is, then get ready to explore a whole new world, because it is quite literally that. So yeah, we're kind of just going to jump right into it. So my first question for you, Santio, is why did you allow me to read your human design chart for you?
It's funny because a lot of the reasoning behind that was based off of like I initially was already in kind of a journey of self-discovery, and so I was creating what's known as like a dossier, which essentially it's like a folder that you hold on a person that actually has like a lot of their information of like said person, essentially like how they think, some of their triggers, some of their traumas, heck, and financial habits, their like say sexual kinks, like pretty much just things that the psychological makeup like of a person. And I was kind of trying to get all that information on myself, because I heard the idea of, if knowledge is power, then essentially what if knowledge of self is self-empowerment. So I
Mm.
was in that kind of a process of my life, and I was looking to gather as much information on myself that I could. And the idea of something like essentially human design that combines so many different perspectives, it definitely kind of like it intrigued me. Where it's like I don't know I can't remember exactly all the perspectives and sciences that it uses to get the information. Although I know it has like, what is it? Like it does have like a bunch of, what were they? What was it? Kabbalah. I
Yeah.
know.
So human design combines Kabbalah, I Ching, quantum physics, astrology, the chakra system, and the genetic code.
Yeah. So essentially, with having all that information as well as like information that I had already gotten from like Enneagram reports, heck, and figuring out my intelligence type, and like my love languages, like how different ways that I show love. I recognize that all these things kind of came with almost like a not exactly a predisposition, but like they came kind of with a pre-programming based off of like the environment, of course, that I was in. because I feel like the environment that you're in really affects your growth. Like environment can be stronger than nature. Essentially, like if you are in an environment of a bunch of lazy individuals, you probably will be lazy yourself. Where it's like as like that's an environment where like in nature, let's say you're tall and you're short and you're around a bunch of tall people, you won't just get tall. So it's like I just really believe in like that. So it was like, okay, let me put myself in a position to I don't know, like essentially get more of this information and get it from a better environment, and something like human design. I think really just included so many different things that it showed me it wasn't based on my environment. Essentially, like it was more of a genetic makeup before I got introduced to my environment, and I think I like that in comparison to all the other information that kind of like seemed to stem from from where I'd already been, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it just gave you like another ability to be able to look into yourself because you were already in that energy of self discovery. So it's like, oh, here's more information, but it combines so many elements. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like an all in one pack.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that. I was very similar in the same way of like, oh, this is a lot of information. So it's like, this is something that I can study for like the rest of my life. So that's kind
Right.
of how I felt. So I'm glad you did allow me to read your human design chart for you. What was the biggest shock or aha moment? If you could think back from our first reading, or like the first time you could remember me like telling you about human design, because we talk about human design a lot. So we've had a
Right.
lot of like, I've read his chart quite a lot of times, but yeah, what would you say is like your biggest shock or aha moment from our first reading that you could remember?
I would say the biggest shock was probably still to this day the not a, well, yeah, I would say shock because it really caused a lot of like action behind it, but it was my digestion type. Being able to
Mm.
recognize like, oh, okay, I can as a consecutive digestive type, I think it really plays very much into like the physical body, where it's like the way you digest things is not just physical, it's also like consuming. So it's like the way that you consume, whether it's information, heckin', like media, the way you consume things is very important, I believe, because I believe that what goes in kind of constitutes the person that you are. So what you constantly feed yourself or consume, like becomes the makeup that like builds you up. So it's like as somebody who's a consecutive digestion, it's like it's very recommended not to mix too many foods, or to give things like a very sequential way of like let's say consuming, where it's like let's say I have a plate of food and it's got three different types of food, let's say mashed potatoes, green beans, yams, and like heckin' lentils. So it's like eating them one at a time in comparison to mixing them together. Or if you look at it in like a regular day sense, that's not like, consuming food, let's say consuming information. Where it's like I'm not a big fan of reading multiple books at once, because I feel like I can digest books best when it's like I focus on one thing at a time. Where it's like, okay, let me just read this one book, get as much information from it as I can, maybe even take notes, instead of like reading multiple things at once and trying to piece heckin' things together, because it's like I feel like it can get jumbled at times. Of course, heckin' with that, it it changes your ability to like let's say like multitask. So you don't really get that like option, but you learn how to jump between tasks at a different speed. But it's like it teaches you how to move, I believe, like in digestion and how you consume things, like how you can start moving through life and start taking in, whether it's information or like even people, like meeting new people. It's cool being able to like meet a group of people, but it's like before truly introducing them too deeply into like my personal life, it's like being able to meet them one on one, and like being able to have that time to like see like, oh, is this, have I gotten to spend time with this individual rather than just seeing them in a crowd mentality, or like in a crowd setting. So it's like I think it's for me definitely been the digestion, and like figuring out for me like, oh, okay, with consecutive digestion and just figuring out how I consume things how I interact with the world around me and like take in information. And it's like especially how I like taking information about people, I'd say like places and events.
Mm. That's interesting too because being like both me and Tio are manifesting generators. And manifesting generators of all the human design types, we move the quickest and we are essentially more looked at as like the multitaskers or those who can get a lot of things done. So it's interesting being, from your perspective, like a manifesting generator who has to learn how to complete one task and then move on to the other rather than multitasking.
Yeah, and even if it's not like completing one task and moving directly to the other, it's the ability to move with a sense of like even checkpoints. Where it's like let's say I have like I'm
I like
for
that.
like for parents from the parental perspective, I would imagine like especially where it's like okay, I have a kid, but I also have a passion and something I need to get done. Like let's say I'm a musician and I write music, but it's like I have a child and it's like I know I can't work for the next 2 hours straight like I can probably without having to deal with a child. So it's like with consecutive digestion, of course, you would want to focus on that one thing. But if a child needs to like eat or something, or like anything else came up in life, let's say you don't have a child, like you gotta go and help a friend who broke down on the road, or your girlfriend is hungry and you gotta go get food with her or something, like simple things where it's like, okay, let me I can like this is one task that I'm actually working on, but to be able to shift your energy and almost transmute it to another task, but know that that energy is still going to go back into the original idea, where it's like not leaving the original idea because then it's like you're kind of just completely severing that energy. And it's like I feel that's where sometimes it can be like, oh, okay, I was working on this and then I switched to this and then it was like I just stopped working on this. But it's like I feel with the consecutive digestion, you can kind of like work on something, put it down for a second, and if you have to, even change your focus. But as long as you come back to it, you have the ability to still move on it with the same like force. It's just about making sure you come back to it with intent. Like taking energy away from something and focusing on something else may always be required just because of life circumstances. So you can't choose like, oh, I'm gonna just do this one thing and only this one thing for the next amount of time. But being able to know that like, oh, this is a goal that I'm focusing on until it's completed. And so it's like even if there's other things that come in between, it's like, oh, I can take my focus off this for half a second or maybe a couple hours because I know that the end goal is still to get there. But it's like I have the ability to compartmentalize thought, where it's like, oh, in this moment, I don't need to be 100% focused on work because, you know, my child or my girlfriend or my friends or whatever, or me existing. And then it's like I can get right back to it. So it's like it's still one thought, but there's individual segments in between the space of time of the completion of the thought, but it's all essentially like still aiming towards getting that one goal completed.
Mm. So it's like, I feel what you're saying in a sense of being able to, like when you mentioned checkpoints, I like that. Of, okay, I'm working on something, and even though I'm not finished with this, something else needs my attention. So I can sit this down, put almost like a bookmark in it, right? So I can come back to it.
Right.
I can go about doing this other thing that needs my attention, complete that, and then I can come back to my bookmark and finish off. So
Right.
I definitely love that perspective with mixing someone who has a consecutive digestion with also being a manifesting generator. What would you say is the hardest thing, or what was the hardest thing for you to admit was true about your human design chart, and how can you navigate through accepting it, or how have you navigated through accepting it? So the hardest
Hmm.
thing for you to admit was true about your human design chart.
I'd say probably. Hmm. I would say in my human design chart, what I
Yeah.
hardest part. that they take such as truth. Because it all definitely, like, hit in a way where it was like, oh man, that was very, like, clarifying.
Can I give you one of mine?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I was just thinking about this question for myself, because I just came up with these questions. This is actually the first time I'm like asking someone these questions. Mine was the fact that I'm a specific manifester, because for whatever reason, like the thought of like having to write down every single detail of the things that I want sounds like so tiring and so exhausting. Like for me, it's and that's something that I'm learning to reframe, right? So even how can I navigate through accepting it is through practicing that. It's through, okay, well,
Right.
if I'm a specific manifester and I'm not necessarily in a place right now that like the place that I'm in right now, I'm very grateful for everything that I am and how far I've come. However, there's still a lot that I feel as if I can be attracting and doing and becoming and leveling up. And so a big part of that I know is because I haven't been taking that time to really like sit and detail oriented, right? And I think that's one of the hardest things for me that I'm still learning how to accept, right? Or that I've had to accept is that I'm a specific manifester of like, I can't just, oh, I want this and be very broad, right? Because then if I get something that isn't specific to what I really want, then I feel disappointed. So it's like to alleviate that disappointment, it's getting really clear. But
Right.
that thought of like, oh, I have to sit here and I have to write down every little thought process can be a bit difficult and challenging. However, I feel like the best way to navigate through that is doing that hard thing, doing that challenging thing, being in the energy of like, okay, I have to sit here and I have to write down every specific little thing that I desire to have and like allowing myself to keep practicing that. So
Right.
that was mine.
Right.
So yeah, just to give you a little bit insight on my perspective.
I'd say definitely, heck, and that kind of opened my mind and reminded me of when we first spoke on. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's like I'm a 3-1 or 1-4,
You're
like
1-4.
a 1-4
Mm-hmm.
line 1-4. So
So
it's like
investigator, opportunist.
investigator opportunist. I remember there was something about the opportunist that I didn't like specifically, which came with the power of the ask. Heck, and
Mm.
specifically, I didn't like. Because after, I didn't really see a negative in the term opportunist. I'm like, I know a lot of people see it negatively. I'm like, in my opinion, life is filled with opportunity, and opportunity plus preparation is what sets you up for success. Plus, Nipsey Hussle said that shit. I'm like, heck, and when he said, opportunity plus preparation. So I'm like, as an opportunist, it's like, I I see opportunity in neutral environments, but one thing that I didn't like is it brought up the ask. Because in my opinion, I just didn't like the idea that abundance would come from having to receive something outside of myself. Which even saying it now, it kind of sounds funny because it's like abundance literally is the idea that there's so much outside of self that it's like it can come to you as long as you like create the systems and abilities to like sustain it, recycle it, and do so much with it. However, it's like I had the mentality where it's like I don't want to ask, like even of like I don't like even the idea of like I don't want to ask like for money, whereas it doesn't make sense. Like when you really think about it, if the universe gave you an opportunity to be like, hey, you can ask for money and you can just have it. But it's like I didn't like the idea of like, oh, I have to ask outside of myself to create some type of abundance or greatness or wealth for myself. Because it was like, why would I have to ask, even if it's like asking other people for opportunities? Because as an entrepreneur who sells clothing, I'm like, I have to vend sometimes my own pieces. So it's like selling hand to hand, getting in these spaces. Sometimes you have to like ask people. It's like, hey, can I vend here? Can I sell my clothes here? And it was like I recognize even being like, oh, I don't want to ask because like I don't want to feel like that nigga who has to. I don't want to feel like that person who literally has to like rely on someone else saying yes or no. But it's like if you don't ever, like if you have a closed mouth, it'll never get fed. And so it's like
that's just a consistent, like, you will literally never get fed if you keep a closed mouth. It's like you won't even feed yourself, because it's like, dude, just like that, you've cut off every opportunity to even receive your blessing. And it's like, I recognize abundance is very much in recognizing, of course, when it's time to work and like for your blessing, but of course recognizing when it's time to ask, because it's like there are times where abundance will be waiting for you to ask the right questions. And it's like, I know for me it was very much about like, oh, I don't want to ask anything outside of me. Like, if I can't do it by myself, then like, what's the reason of even like saying that I'm gonna do it and do it by myself? But it's like, dude, just ask. Like, at the end of the day, like, the worst thing that could happen with the ask is a no. And then that's literally just a signal that you were meant to do it. Without that specific thing, you were probably just meant to do on your own. You probably didn't need to ask for that. But that no should be the only time you're really like thinking like, oh, okay, but this is what I need to go and get it. Because for me, I'm always down to ask now first. Where it's like, if I can find an opportunity by asking somebody, it's like, why not? Because it's like, if they say no, then it's like, oh, I'll create my own. But it's like, I think that was the hardest thing for me to accept, of like, oh, as an opportunist, you don't have to go out and look for every opportunity, but you can ask for opportunities and they can be provided for you. And it was like, damn, like, okay, I guess if I start asking, then there's nothing really wrong with that. But I also know it came from, like, of course, street culture, a lot of street culture. And like, as somebody who like at one point was unhoused and like literally like eating food out the trash and selling things to get by, heck, in like in different ways that weren't clothes. It was like, we were like kind of the mentality of like, no handouts. Like, you can't accept handouts, because like handouts usually came back and like people would come back and ask for them. And it's like, if you didn't have them, bad things could happen to you or like other people. It was like, again, not having something that somebody else like needed. But I recognize the universe and abundance doesn't work like that. So when you ask the universe for something, and even if you don't know how to take care of it, it's like the universe won't come back and be like, oh, heck, and where's my money? Like, we gave you $1 million and you didn't know what to do with it. It's like, yeah, but heck, and as long as you learn through the process, it's like you can still do it again. But it's when you don't learn, and especially not learning how to ask, I'm like, dude, you just pretty much stop any blessing from coming your way. Because then imagine if you make that million and you lose it due to something that was out of your control. And you could ask somebody and they would see that you made that million and they're ready to give you 10. But because you never asked, that person doesn't even think that you're willing to try again to make that 10. So they won't even give it to you. And so it's like, I just think for me it was getting past that, oh, asking is not cool, handouts are not cool, because it's not a handout. It's like, we deserve it. I'm like, a lot of us may not think we deserve it, but I think as opportunists, it's like one of the biggest opportunities that you can really accept is the opportunity that you give to yourself. And it's like, the only opportunity you can give to yourself is the opportunity to ask for something.
Damn, that's deep. I like how you mentioned even the perspective of like, okay, when the universe gives you something, and even if like something out of your control like causes you to no longer have that thing, it's like the lesson that you learn within that and the ability to be able to like continue to still ask for it. Like, okay, just because I lost $1 million after gaining it doesn't mean I don't deserve 10. And
Right.
so it's like being able to, I think, rewrite our minds on that, because a lot of people see failure as if like, oh, I didn't deserve it. And it's like, well,
Cancel culture.
yeah, it's not necessarily that you didn't deserve that. It's that you weren't able to learn from the adversity that comes from losing $1 million to then learn how to not do it again, right? Because whether it be something that was in your control or out of your control, right? If it's out of your control, okay, well, it could just be that you may have partnered with
The wrong person.
the wrong person, right? So was that technically out of their actions were out of your control, but what was in my control? Okay, maybe I didn't use my discernment, right? Maybe I rushed into this business
But
partnership too fast.
but even
Maybe I didn't
that's an
set up the
ask.
right.
Like,
Exactly.
like, there's times where it's like, I've had times working with people where it's like, I've invested thousands of dollars into clothing, And it's like if I had asked more questions, it's like I wouldn't have invested as much money into like these ideas. And it's like I recognize that failure and fear almost to just ask anything in general, because it's not even asking for just abundance, but asking for clarity, asking for heckin' I think clarity, like asking for clarity is a very important one, because it's like asking for abundance is one thing, but clarity gives you structure to motion. So it's like any motion that you make, it's like clarity will put structure to any motion, and that allows you to then take any abundance, any energy, anything that comes your way, and like put it in these specific sectors of your life to do much more. But it's like if you don't even ask for, like, let's say clarity, I'm like, there's definitely no reason to be asking for abundance. So it's like in my specific case, it's like I had to first start learning how to like ask for clarity, where it's like even in my own life it would be like, oh, let me get clear on like why I want this abundance. Like what the hell is the reason of making an extra, like, dude, $100,000 a year? And it's like everyone's like, oh, so I can have more money. But it's like, for what? Like, what exactly is the reason? And it's like, you don't have the clarity of like, oh, so I can invest into my family, so I can retire my father, heck, and pay him, you know, like $20,000 a year. And it's like, heck, and to be able to invest this much into my community and like give back this much, to be able to rid off all my debts and be able to, you know, heck, and hire my significant other, my girlfriend, heck, and my family members. Like, if you don't already have that clarity, it's like I don't feel like asking is really like, asking for abundance is the first thing you should ask. So it's like learning to ask is one thing, but when you learn to ask, you have to know what question to ask. Kind of like how we prompt AI.
Exactly. I really like that perspective too, of just like knowing what to ask specifically. So my next question for you is, what did you relate to the most from like your, like, out of your entire human design chart? What is the one thing that you feel like you relate to the most, or that you constantly think about the most?
I would say my right cross, heck, and my right cross of the sleeping phoenix, I believe. Heck, and it's very much, I guess, like how you're supposed to move forward in your life, like moving, like, I know it talked a lot about like future, specifically in my case, but it spoke specifically about learning how to develop systems of independence and solidarity, where it's like sovereignty, where it's like being able to create these type of systems not only amongst myself but around the people around me, and to take a leadership role in teaching people how to develop that for themselves, where it's like how to not teach people to be followers, but to be leaders amongst leaders. Like, to be leaders amongst leaders is a whole different thing than being a leader amongst followers. Because when you have a bunch of leaders together, it's like a lot more things have the ability to get done. And so it's like, I think that was definitely one that I took personal, where it's like, okay, let me find ways to find other leaders that I know and utilize not only their skill sets, but like to figure out how we could all come together and like do more collectively in a positive way. So it's like when it spoke on that, like the sovereignty, the independence, the solidarity, because solidarity is very much like individuals coming together as individuals to make,
to band together,
yeah,
to
to
unite.
band together, to
Yeah.
unite. But it's like you
Yeah.
have to be a strong individual to come together and want to make a strong collective.
You know, because even when I think of the word solidarity, I think of soldier. And it's like, what
Right.
are soldiers? Soldiers are people who can stand on their own, but who understand the importance of
The collective.
the strength of other soldiers. Like,
Yeah.
there's, I can't think of one intelligent soldier who would want to go on the battlefield alone
Right.
against like a whole group
Against
of people.
armies, yeah.
Like, it wouldn't make any sense. You're as a soldier, you understand that, okay, yeah, my personal strength is very important, but also the strength of my environment, the strength of my comrades, the strength of my homeland, right? The strength of my home base.
Right.
If my home base is
Weak.
if we don't have medics, right, if there's no security, my home base is weak. I don't feel solid in that. I don't feel like a soldier in that. And so it was just interesting when you brought up solidarity, and I automatically thought of soldier. You know, I've been having a lot of dreams about just being in that soldier energy and being very strong and very united. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Even just, you know, because I've read a lot into your chart and how it correlates with mine, and just you being in that futuristic mentality and learning how to bridge the gap between where we are and where we have been to where we need to be able to really sustain in this new way, that Gaia, that Mother Earth is going to reframe our systems, and then just being in alignment with that. So I think it's really dope that you relate to your incarnation cross, because it's interesting. That's actually one of the, like, for my more in-depth readings, like, that's what we get into. We get into the incarnation cross and the gene keys, and like how that's really like the main theme in your life purpose and your energy. So I think that's really cool that that's your most relatable part from your chart. The next question is, have you begun to implement the information given from our readings?
Definitely. I'm like I can starting back with like just a consecutive digestion. I'm like it really that's definitely just helped with even just ease of like in the simplest way. I'm like just the body in general really does better with, I'd say for me, it just feels better like eating things separately, not mixing stuff together. I'm like bowel movements are easier. Like and just overall energy is higher. I'm like being able to actually enjoying food on a different level. Like it also changed my relationship with food of like being able to like really taste each individual like item and develop like, oh, I really like this. Oh, I really don't like this. So I'm gonna have to get these vitamins through something else. So it's like it's also helped with like crafting that the way that like I eat and like relate to the things that I eat to live. Of course, besides that, the incarnation cross definitely has helped me with like finding other leaders in my community. I'm like being able to meet individuals like yourselves, um, who've like been able to help me like coordinate having community fridges and freezers. Being able to meet other individuals who have been able to even supply us with like fridges and freezers to help us connect with food banks and help reduce local food waste, and like just connecting with other leaders. And it was like that also came with the ask, where it's like I had to learn how to implement the ask properly. And it was like the ask came with asking for clarity first, where it was like, oh, okay, let me I can ask for clarity of like what am I going to ask these people as a regular person who doesn't have a job, who is just an entrepreneur who sells clothes, like literally just sells clothes. And heck, and what am I gonna ask these people to get them to give me $10,000 worth of food so I can give this food out to people who are living on the streets? And it was like I had to sit and ask for clarity to like figure out what are the questions I have to ask. And it was like or ask for clarity of like what do I have to do? And it was like it definitely taught me like getting confident in that ask of like, oh, okay, well, if I'm an opportunist and I have this opportunity, well, I'm talking to people who have all this food that's about to go to waste, and I'm the only person who can ask right now to take it. Then I'll figure out what to do with it later, but I might as well ask now. And so it's like being able to get confident in that ask was definitely something that was like really changed not only of course my life but the lives of people around me, being able to like help more people because I learned to open my mouth and make that ask. So it's like being able to work into that opportunist energy. But I'd say definitely those. Heck, and but just a couple of the ones that I'd say were like definitely the most used like recently.
Okay. And then my very last question, would be, would you recommend others to learn and implement their human design charts, and why?
I would recommend others definitely to start the journey of self-discovery. And it's like I know that human design could give definitely the blueprint, but every blueprint comes with somebody who knows how to read it. So it's like if you have a blueprint but you can't read it, it's not as useful to you as it is to the architect who could explain, oh, heck, in this blueprint, is telling you that you can do it this way so that your foundation is strong. Like, and you can do it this way so that, like, and you don't make the stairs all wobbly over there, so on your ascension you end up falling in certain ways and have to get up in different areas. So it's like, of course, doing that personal work is important, but like having individuals heckin' that can help you with that ascension and like help you with getting that information is I think even more important, because it's like this was not something that for me was really like ever brought up or talked about. And so I'd say like for somebody else, I'm sure if they heard about it, it was like I would hope that they would have the same idea and intrigue of like, oh, there's a curiosity there. So it's like if I would ever meet anybody, I always recommend them human design, because it's like it just makes sense in my opinion. It gives you so many different areas to kind of look for like relatability, not even just relatability, but like actionable things that you can do in your life, especially when, like I said, if you have those people who can kind of explain what it means, where it's like, oh, I have a question about this, my gate's here. I have a question about like, what's a ajna center, or like what's a splenic like splenic center, or all these different things in it, where it's like being able to ask somebody, I think, is the most important part. So it's like I would definitely recommend it to somebody, but I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who doesn't already have, let's say, like maybe a teacher, or maybe someone who has that level of information that could help them translate it. Because it's like then you have this piece of technology that could lead you to the gold, but you can't even like read it, you can't even like decipher it. And it's like having somebody who can decipher it and give you the information in not only actionable chunks but digestible chunks is very useful. So it's like I'd say yes, definitely recommend it to others, but make sure you have a great teacher. And yeah, yeah.
That's true, because I feel like when I first started learning human design, I looked into a couple different people on YouTube that I started watching, but I didn't really like fully resonate with anyone until I found because I was like, I need to see someone like me teaching this, right? Because it was like,
Yeah,
no tea, no shade, but
I didn't watch no videos. I'm like,
yeah.
Everything that I was able to speak on, I learned from you. I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't have to watch no videos after being able to like talk with you, because it was like, oh, cool, I have somebody I can like actually relate to and who can actually like speak it in a language that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm like, as you were saying, like you had to find it somewhere.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know where the hell you found it, because like, and I've never heard of it. So it's like, I'm glad that you were able to find it, because it was like, if you hadn't, I probably never would have ever really, like, if I heard of somebody telling me like, oh nigga, but like you're supposed to eat one thing at a time, I'd probably tell them to like screw off, like low-key, like leave me alone.
Somebody eat my lasagna.
Yeah, like dude, I'm gonna mix my food. I'm gonna mix all my pizza sauces. I'm gonna mix everything together, my mac and cheese and my mashed potatoes. Yeah. But it's like, I definitely think like that search that you did to find it and like do that inner work to actually translate it is very important. And it's like, it was very needed. So like, thank you.
Of course. It definitely took a lot of searching. I feel like once I found teachers that connected and resonated, it was very easy to get the message. And I feel like even learning, and I'll end on this note too, but learning about my gates and the ones that I have defined, especially in my throat center, where it's like, oh, I have this very natural ability to be able to take very complex information and give it back in a very digestible form. It just made sense why I was meant to be the vessel to be able to teach this information and give it to people. So I just definitely want to say thank you for taking the time to just have this conversation with me. My goal is to continue to be able to open up these conversations for people, bring the curiosity, bring back the free thinking, right? Bring people back into themselves, teaching people how to love themselves, how to learn about themselves, how to remember themselves, and how to implement the knowledge that they learn on this journey of self-discovery. And then, of course, being myself, you know, that teacher, that guide, however, teaching people how to unlock that within themselves, right? So being the blueprint or being an example of what that looks like. Oh, this is someone who, you know, utilizes human design to benefit her life. I can learn from her, and then I can take that information, implement it into my life, and then I can go teach other people. So, with all that being said, that is going to be the end of today's episode. I just want to say gratitude from the bottom of my heart for seeing this episode through. I know it was full of a lot of information. However, I affirm that you were able to digest it in a way that opens your mind to human design, to learning about yourself, to loving yourself more. If human design is something that you've been seeing more on your feed, has been coming up more lately, and you're just curious to learn more about it, or if you've already known about it and you're just ready to dive deeper, definitely feel free to reach out. I consider myself a human design guide, as I have been studying it for a couple of years now. And so I'm here to help, to teach, to guide. Like I said, do not be afraid to reach out. You can leave a comment down below. You can reach out to us on Instagram, and then also in the link in the description box, we also will be putting our human design reading booking link, so you can book a reading directly with me. And yeah, I affirm that on this journey of self-discovery, you find all the tools that you need. Love, light, and peace. See you soon.